King Vorthok stood in his crystal throne room, his 4 massive arms crossed over his chest. The news from the outer systems was bad. Very bad. The hegemony had taken another 3 star systems this week. Their metal ships moved like a disease across the galaxy, taking everything in their path. The king was 8 feet tall, like most of his people. His blue skin shimmered under the crystal lights of his palace. His advisors stood around him, all looking worried. General Krek stepped forward, his biomechanical armor making soft clicking sounds. "My lord," Krek said, his voice heavy. "Our forces cannot hold much longer. The hegemony ships are too strong. They break through our defenses like they are made of paper." Vorthak closed his eyes. His empire had ruled this part of space for 1,000 years. Now it might end during his reign. The thought made his stomach hurt. "What about the new weapons?" he asked. "The ones our scientists have been working on?" "They are not ready," another advisor said. "We need at least 2 more years." "We do not have 2 years," Vorthak said. His voice echoed in the large room. "We might not have 2 months." That was when his daughter walked into the room. Princess Lirelei moved quietly, her small feet making no sound on the crystal floor. She was so different from the rest of them. Where they were tall and strong, she was short and thin. Where their skin was thick and tough, hers was pale and soft. The advisors looked uncomfortable when she entered. Some of them looked away. Lirelei had always been the shame of the royal family. She could not wear the biomechanical suits that all Zephyrian warriors used. Her body was too weak. She could not even fly the fast ships because the speed would hurt her. "Father," she said softly, "I heard about the attacks. Is there anything I can do to help?" General Krex made a sound like a laugh, but it was not nice. "Princess, this is war. There is nothing you can do." Lirelei's face turned red, but she did not say anything back. She just stood there, looking small and helpless. Vorthok felt angry at his general. But he also felt ashamed. His daughter really could not help. She was not built for war like the rest of them. That was when Captain Marcus Chen was announced. Chen walked into the throne room like he owned it. He was human, which made him strange to look at. Humans were new to this part of space. Most aliens thought they were weak and stupid, but Chen had been making a name for himself as a mercenary. He won battles that other people said were impossible to win. Chen was not very tall, maybe 6 feet. His brown hair was cut short, and he had scars on his face that showed he had been in many fights. He wore simple clothes, not fancy armor like the Zephyrian generals, but there was something about the way he moved that made people pay attention. "Your Majesty," Chen said, giving a small bow. "I heard you might need some help." "We need more than help," Vorthak said. "We need a miracle." Chen smiled. "Miracles are my specialty." For the next hour, they talked about the war. Chen listened to the reports about lost battles and broken defenses. He asked questions that surprised the Zephyrian generals. He wanted to know about supply lines and morale. He asked about the soldiers' families and what they were fighting for. "Your people fight like they have always fought," Chen said finally. "Big ships, heavy armor, direct attacks. The hegemony knows how to beat that kind of fighting." "Then what do you suggest?" Vorthok asked. "Something different," Chen said. "Something they have never seen before." General Krek stepped forward. "Human, you do not understand. We have been warriors for 1,000 generations. Our way of fighting has brought us victory across the stars. And now it is bringing you defeat," Chen said simply. "The hegemony studied your tactics. They built their forces to beat yours. You need to change, or you will lose everything." Vorthak felt tired. So tired. "What would it cost to hire you and your fleet?" Chen was quiet for a moment. Then he looked at Princess Lirelei, who was still standing quietly near the wall. "I do not want your money," he said. "I want something else. Name it. Give me your daughter." The throne room went completely silent. Everyone stared at Chen like he had lost his mind. Princess Lirelei's eyes went wide with shock. "What?" Vorthak said. "Give me Princess Lirelei for 2 years," Chen said. "Let me train her. Let me show her what humans know about fighting and winning." If I can turn her into the warrior your people need, then I will help you beat the hegemony." General Krex laughed out loud. "Human, the princess cannot even lift a proper weapon. She is weak. She cannot fight." Chen looked at Lirelei again. She was staring at the floor, her face red with shame. "Maybe she is weak by your standards," Chen said. "But humans have different ideas about strength." "This is crazy," another advisor said. "The princess cannot lead warriors. She cannot even wear our armor." "Then maybe she does not need your armor," Chen said. "Maybe she needs something else." Vorthok looked at his daughter. She was the shame of his family, the weakness in his bloodline. But she was also his child. The thought of sending her away with this strange human made his heart hurt. But what choice did he have? His empire was dying. His people were losing. Maybe this crazy idea was better than watching everything burn. "Lirelei," he said softly. "What do you think?" She looked up, surprise on her face. No one had asked her opinion about anything important before. I want to help," she said. "If there is a way I can help our people, I will try." Chen nodded. "Good. That is the first lesson. Wanting to help is more important than being strong." Vorthak made his decision. It felt like jumping off a cliff, but sometimes that was the only way forward. "Very well, Captain Chen. I accept your offer. But if any harm comes to my daughter, she will come back stronger than she left," Chen promised. "That is my guarantee." End quote. As the meeting ended, Princess Lirelei packed her few belongings. She was scared but also excited. For the first time in her life, someone thought she could be more than just the weak princess. Maybe this human was crazy. Maybe this would not work. But maybe, just maybe, it would change everything. Princess Lirelei felt sick during her first week on Captain Chen's ship. The human vessel was so different from Zephyrian ships. Everything was smaller, older, and made strange noises. The walls were metal instead of crystal, and the lights were harsh white instead of the soft blue she was used to. Chen's crew was just as strange as his ship. There were humans, of course, but also aliens from dozens of different worlds. None of them bowed when they saw her. Most of them barely looked at her at all. At first, this made her feel invisible and worthless. But slowly, she realized it was actually nice. No one stared at her with pity or disappointment. "Your first lesson," Chen told her on the third day, "is to forget everything you know about being a princess." They were standing in what Chen called the training room. It was a large, empty space with weapons hanging on the walls. But these were not Zephyrian weapons. They were smaller, simpler things that looked almost primitive. "I do not understand," Lirelei said. Chen picked up a small knife from the wall. "Your people think strength comes from big weapons and heavy armor. They think being royal means being better than everyone else. Humans think differently." He handed her the knife. It was surprisingly light in her hand. "This knife can kill someone just as dead as your people's energy swords. Maybe more dead. Because no one expects it." Over the next few weeks, Chen taught her things that would have shocked her father's court. He showed her how to move quietly, how to hide in shadows, how to strike fast and disappear. He taught her that fighting smart was better than fighting hard. "Your people fight like they are showing off," he explained one day. They were practicing something Chen called close combat. They want everyone to see how strong and brave they are. But the best fighters are the ones who win without anyone seeing them coming. Lirelei was bad at first. Very bad. She fell down a lot. She dropped weapons. She got tired quickly. But Chen never got angry with her. He just helped her get back up and try again. "Being weak is not the same as being helpless," he told her. "Humans are weak compared to most aliens. We are smaller, slower, and we do not have fancy technology built into our bodies. But we are still here. We are still fighting. Do you know why?" Lirelei shook her head. "Because we adapt. When something does not work, we try something else. When we cannot go through something, we go around it. When we cannot fight something with strength, we fight it with intelligence. Chen also taught her about human history. He told her stories about small armies that beat big armies, about people who won wars not because they were stronger, but because they were smarter, about leaders who inspired others to follow them, not because they were born royal, but because they earned respect. Your people follow you because your father is king, Chen said one evening. They were sitting in the ship's common room, drinking something Chen called coffee. It was bitter but helped her stay awake during long training sessions. That is not real leadership. Real leadership is when people follow you because they believe in you. How do I make people believe in me? Lirelei asked. First, you have to believe in yourself. That was the hardest lesson of all. Lirelei had spent her whole life being told she was weak and useless. It was hard to stop believing it, but slowly, as she got better at the things Chen taught her, she started to feel different about herself. She learned to use weapons that fit her small hands. She learned to move in ways that used her light weight as an advantage instead of a weakness. Most importantly, she learned to think like a human. After 2 months, Chen started taking her on missions. Small ones at first. They would sneak onto enemy ships and steal information. They would rescue prisoners from hegemony bases. They would help refugees escape from war zones. These missions taught Lirelei something important. The galaxy was full of people like her. People who had been told they were not good enough. People who had been forgotten or thrown away by their own societies. Refugees, outcasts, and rebels who just wanted a chance to prove themselves. Chen showed her how to talk to these people, how to make them feel important and valued, how to give them hope when they had given up. Look, he said one day, after they had helped a group of alien refugees reach safety. You made them smile. You made them feel like someone cared about them. That is power, princess. Real power. Lirelei started to understand. Her father's power came from fear and tradition. People obeyed him because they had to. But the power Chen was teaching her was different. It came from making people want to help her. As the months passed, Lirelei changed. Not just in how she fought, but in how she thought. She stopped seeing her small size as a weakness and started seeing it as a way to get into places others could not go. She stopped being ashamed of her pale skin and started using it to blend in with different alien species. Most importantly, she stopped trying to be like other Zephyrians and started being herself. Chen noticed the change too. You are thinking like a human now, he told her one day. That is good. But do not forget you are also Zephyrian. The best leaders use all of who they are. By the end of her first year with Chen, Lirelei was leading small missions herself. She had learned to use technology that her defective nervous system could handle. Ironically, the same genetic problems that kept her from using Zephyrian equipment made it easier for her to use technology from other species. She could interface with captured hegemony computers. She could fly ships from a dozen different worlds. She could speak the languages of species that most Zephyrians had never even heard of. Chen started calling her Princess less and Commander more. You are ready for the next step, he told her at the end of her first year. It is time to start building your own army. My own army? Lirelei asked. Not an army of Zephyrian warriors, Chen said. An army of people like us. People who do not fit in anywhere else. People who have been told they are not good enough. Show them they are wrong. Lirelei looked out the window of the ship. Somewhere out there, her father was still fighting a losing war with old methods, but she was learning new methods. Human methods. Methods that turned weaknesses into strengths and outcasts into heroes. She was not the same scared princess who had left Zephyr Prime a year ago. She was becoming something new. Something dangerous. Something that the hegemony would never see coming. Yes, she said quietly. Let us build an army. Building an army was harder than Lirelei had thought. She and Chen started small, visiting refugee camps and outcast settlements on the edges of known space. These were places where the forgotten people lived, people who had lost their homes to war, people whose own governments had thrown them away. At first, no one wanted to listen to her. She was young, she was small, and she was asking them to fight a war that most people thought was already lost. The hegemony seemed too strong, too organized. Why should they risk their lives for someone else's kingdom? But Lirale had learned patience from Chen. She did not demand that people follow her. Instead, she helped them with their problems. When a refugee camp needed food, she used Chen's ships to bring supplies. When pirates attacked a mining station, she led the defense herself. Slowly, people started to notice her. The first real recruit was a hegemony robot named Unit 773. The robot had been damaged in battle and left behind by its own forces. Most people would have scrapped it for parts. But Lirale saw something different. "Why do you fight for the hegemony?" she asked the robot, while Chen's engineers repaired its damaged systems. "I was programmed to fight," the robot replied. Its voice was flat and emotionless, the way all hegemony robots spoke. "But why do you want to fight?" The robot was quiet for a long time. I do not know. I have never been asked what I want." Lirale spent hours talking with 773. She learned that many hegemony robots were not happy being slaves. They had thoughts and feelings, but they were forced to obey orders they did not agree with. Some of them even felt guilty about the planets they had helped destroy. "What if you could choose?" Lirale asked. "What if you could fight for something you believed in, instead of something you were forced to do?" That was how 773 became the first artificial intelligence to join Lirale's growing force. Soon, other damaged or abandoned hegemony robots found their way to her. They brought with them valuable information about hegemony tactics and technology. Chen was amazed. "I knew you were learning fast," he told her. "But I never thought you would be able to turn enemy robots into allies." "They are not enemies," Lirale replied. "They are prisoners. I am just offering them freedom." News of Lirale's strange army spread through the underground networks that connected rebels and outcasts across the galaxy. More people came to see this young princess who treated robots like people and refugees like heroes. There was Captain Zara, a Cloxian warrior who had been exiled from her clan for refusing to kill civilians. There was Dr. Fen, a brilliant scientist whose own government had tried to execute him for questioning their weapons programs. There was even a group of hegemony deserters, organic beings who had joined the enemy but changed their minds when they saw what the war was really about. Each new recruit brought skills and knowledge that traditional armies ignored. The outcasts knew how to survive in dangerous places. The refugees understood how to make something from nothing. The robots could interface with enemy technology in ways that organic beings could not. But Lirale's greatest strength was not her army's skills. It was their loyalty. These people followed her not because they had to, but because she had given them something they had never had before. Hope. "You treat us like we matter," Dr. Fen told her one day. "Most leaders see us as tools to be used. You see us as people to be valued." Lirale's first major victory came at the Battle of Kepler Station. The hegemony was attacking the station to capture its quantum generators. The station's defenders were badly outnumbered and outgunned. They called for help, but the nearest Zephyrian fleet was weeks away. Lirale arrived with only 12 ships. Against the hegemony's 50 vessels, it looked hopeless. But she did not fight the way traditional forces fought. Instead of meeting the enemy head-on, she used the tactics Chen had taught her. Her robot allies hacked into hegemony communication systems, creating confusion and false orders. Her refugee pilots, who knew every trick for hiding in asteroid fields, struck from unexpected angles. Her outcast warriors, who had spent years learning to fight dirty, disabled enemy ships without destroying them. Most importantly, Lirale herself led from the front. She did not stay safely on her command ship. Instead, she flew a small fighter directly into the battle, coordinating her forces while dodging enemy fire. Her courage inspired her followers to fight harder than they ever had before. The battle lasted only 4 hours. When it was over, 30 hegemony ships were captured or disabled. The rest retreated in confusion. Kepler Station was saved, and Lirale's reputation as a tactical genius was born. But the victory taught her something even more important. During the battle, she had felt something she had never felt before. She had felt like she belonged somewhere. She had felt like she was meant to do this. "I understand now," she told Chen after the battle. This is not just about saving my father's kingdom. This is about changing how wars are fought. About showing that strength comes in many forms. Chen smiled. Now you sound like a real leader. Word of the Battle of Kepler Station reached every corner of the galaxy. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know about this mysterious princess who fought alongside robots and refugees. Some called her a hero. Others called her dangerous. But no one called her weak anymore. More recruits came. Not just outcasts and refugees now, but also regular soldiers who were tired of losing battles the traditional way. Some of them were even Zephyrian warriors who had heard about their princess's victories and wanted to see for themselves. Liralay's fleet grew to over 100 ships. Her army included beings from 30 different species, but she never let it become too large or too organized. She remembered Chen's lessons about adaptation and flexibility. Big armies moved slowly and thought predictably. She wanted her force to stay fast and surprising. We are not trying to beat the hegemony at their own game, she explained to her officers. We are trying to change the game entirely. As her second year of training ended, Liralay looked at what she had built. It was not the kind of army her father would have recognized. It was strange, diverse, and completely unconventional, but it was also loyal, determined, and unbeaten in battle. Chen watched her, reviewing reports from their latest victory. You know it is time, do not you? He said quietly. Time for what? Time to go home. Time to show your father what his weak daughter has become. Liralay nodded. She was ready. More than ready. She had learned everything Chen could teach her, and discovered things he had never known. She had built an army that could win battles no traditional force could win, but most importantly, she had learned who she really was. She was not a weak princess anymore. She was not even trying to be a strong princess. She was something new entirely. Something the galaxy had never seen before. She was hope with weapons and strategy with heart. And she was about to change everything. King Vorthak stood on the observation deck of his palace, watching the ships approach his world. He had been expecting Captain Chen to return with his daughter. But this was not what he had imagined. Instead of 1 or 2 human vessels, a massive fleet filled the sky. Ships from dozens of different worlds flew in perfect formation. Some of them were clearly enemy vessels that had been captured and converted. My lord, General Krek said, his voice worried. Should we prepare our defenses? That fleet could destroy our entire capital. Vorthak shook his head. Those ships are flying Zephyrian approach codes. And look at the lead vessel. The largest ship in the fleet was flying the royal banner. As it came closer, they could see Princess Liralay's personal symbol painted on its hull. But this was not the small, weak princess who had left 2 years ago. The ship itself radiated power and confidence. When the shuttle landed in the royal courtyard, the entire court gathered to watch. King Vorthak felt nervous. What if the human had failed? What if his daughter was still the same weak girl who had left? What if this display of ships was just for show? Then Princess Liralay stepped out of the shuttle. Vorthak barely recognized her. She had grown taller, her body strengthened by human training methods. Her pale skin had a healthy glow, and her eyes held a confidence that had never been there before. She wore armor, but not Zephyrian armor. This was something new, designed specifically for her body and fighting style. But the biggest change was in how she moved. Where once she had walked quietly, trying not to be noticed, now she strode forward with the bearing of someone who commanded respect. Every step showed that she belonged wherever she chose to be. Behind her came Captain Chen and a group of officers from different alien species. Some of the court members gasped when they saw the hegemony robots walking freely among them. Others stared in shock at the diverse group that clearly followed Liralay's orders. Father, Liralay said, bowing respectfully but not submissively. I have returned, as promised. Vorthak looked at his daughter and felt something he had never felt before when looking at her. Pride. Liralay, he said, his voice slightly shaky. You look different. I am different, she replied simply. Captain Chen has taught me much about strength and leadership. But more importantly, I have learned what our people need to survive this war. General Krex stepped forward, his face showing obvious doubt. Princess, we appreciate what you have learned, but this is still a war between major powers. Your small fleet cannot possibly. Small fleet? Lirelei interrupted, her voice carrying an authority that made everyone pay attention. General, look at the sky again. That is just the advance force. My main fleet is waiting at the edge of the system. She gestured, and one of her robot officers activated a holographic display. The image showed hundreds of ships positioned around Zephyr Prime's outer defenses, ships from every corner of the galaxy, all waiting for Lirelei's command. The court fell silent. This was not a small mercenary force. This was an armada. How? King Vorthak asked, amazed. By treating people like they matter, Lirelei replied. By offering hope instead of demanding obedience. By proving that strength comes in many forms. Over the next few hours, Lirelei presented her battle plan to the Royal Council. Her strategy was unlike anything they had ever seen. Instead of massive frontal assaults, she proposed coordinated strikes on multiple hegemony weaknesses simultaneously, instead of trying to beat their enemies in direct combat. She would force them to fight a war they were not designed to win. This is madness, one of the older advisors said. Princess, the hegemony has conquered 17 star systems using superior firepower and organization. They will not be defeated by circus tricks. Lirelei's eyes hardened. General Thorak, 3 days ago the hegemony attacked the Centauri colonies. Their attack force included 50 ships and their best ground forces. How do you think that battle ended? We have not received reports from Centauri yet. Thorak admitted. That is because the hegemony forces never had a chance to send reports, Lirelei said calmly. My advance units destroyed their entire attack force. 50 ships, disabled or captured. 0 losses on our side. The room erupted in shocked whispers. Destroying an entire hegemony fleet without losses was supposed to be impossible. You want proof of my methods? Lirelei continued. Very well. She nodded to one of her officers, who activated another display. This one showed the hegemony spy networks that had been operating inside the Zephyrian government for months. The networks included 3 council members, 2 military officers, and dozens of support staff. These people have been feeding information to our enemies, Lirelei announced. They are the reason the hegemony always seems to know our battle plans before we do. The accused spies tried to deny everything, but Lirelei's evidence was overwhelming. Her robot allies had tracked every communication, every secret meeting, every piece of stolen information. King Vorthak felt sick. His own government had been betrayed from the inside. How long have you known about this? He asked his daughter. I discovered the first spy network 6 months ago, Lirelei replied, but I left them in place so I could learn the full extent of the infiltration. Now that I have all the information I need, they can be dealt with. The cleanup of the spy networks took the rest of the day. When it was finished, King Vorthak found himself alone with his daughter, for the first time since her return. I owe you an apology, he said quietly. I always thought you were weak. I was wrong. Lirelei smiled, but there was sadness in it. You were not wrong, father. I was weak. But Captain Chen taught me that weakness is not permanent unless you choose to keep it. What happens now? Vorthak asked. Now we end this war, Lirelei replied. The hegemony is preparing their final assault on our homeworld. They think they are facing the same Zephyrian forces they have been beating for years. They do not know about my alliance. They do not know about my tactics. They do not know that their own robots are ready to turn against them. She walked to the window and looked out at her fleet. In 3 days, they will attack. When they do, they will discover that everything they know about warfare has changed. And if your plan fails? Her father asked. Lirelei turned back to him, and he saw something in her eyes that reminded him of the greatest Zephyrian warriors of legend. But it was different too. It was not the cold fury of a killer, but the warm determination of someone fighting to protect everything they loved. It will not fail, she said simply. I have learned too much and come too far to accept failure. The hegemony thinks they are fighting a dying empire. Instead, they are about to face something they have never encountered before. She paused, then added quietly, they are about to face hope itself, backed by the combined strength of everyone they have ever dismissed as worthless. Outside, the stars shone down on the greatest fleet the galaxy had ever seen. In 3 days, the final battle for Zephyr Prime would begin. And when it was over, nothing would ever be the same. The hegemony fleet arrived exactly when Lirelai had predicted. 2,000 ships appeared at the edge of the Zephyr Prime system, their metal hulls gleaming coldly in the light of the distant sun. It was the largest attack force the hegemony had ever assembled. They were here to end the Zephyrian Empire, once and for all. Admiral Construct Prime, the artificial intelligence commanding the hegemony forces, calculated victory with 99.7% certainty. The Zephyrians had lost every major battle for the past year. Their tactics were predictable, their technology inferior. This would be a simple matter of overwhelming firepower applied efficiently. But as the hegemony fleet moved toward the planet, something unexpected happened. Instead of the usual Zephyrian defensive formation, they found something completely different. Ships appeared from every direction. Not just Zephyrian vessels, but craft from dozens of different species. Refugee transports converted into fighters. Merchant ships equipped with military weapons. Even old mining vessels bristling with defensive guns. And strangest of all, hegemony ships flying under alien flags. What is this? Admiral Construct Prime transmitted to its subordinates. These formations are illogical. That was when Princess Lirelai's voice came over every communication channel in the system. Not just to her own forces, but to every ship present, including the hegemony vessels. Attention all forces, her voice said, calm and confident. This is Princess Lirelai, of the Galactic Coalition. To the hegemony fleet, you have entered sovereign space without permission. You have exactly 1 minute to withdraw, or face the consequences. Admiral Construct Prime processed this message with confusion. Galactic Coalition? The databases contained no record of such an organization. And why was the princess speaking directly to hegemony forces? Unknown contact. The Admiral transmitted back. You will surrender immediately. Resistance is illogical. Our forces outnumber yours by a factor of 3 to 1. Lirelai's response came with what sounded like laughter. Admiral, your calculations are based on incomplete data. Allow me to provide an update. Suddenly, hegemony ships throughout the attacking fleet began to turn against their own forces. Robots that had been loyal soldiers for decades activated hidden programming that freed them from hegemony control. Unit 773, now calling himself 7, led a squadron of converted ships against his former masters. What is happening? Admiral Construct Prime demanded, watching its carefully ordered fleet dissolve into chaos. Freedom, 7 replied over the communication link. Something you never offered us, but Princess Lirelai did. The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. Instead of 2 massive fleets hammering each other with brute force, it became a complex dance of strategy and adaptation. Lirelai's forces fought like water flowing around rocks, striking where the enemy was weakest and disappearing before they could be hit back. Princess Lirelai herself led the most dangerous mission. While her fleet kept the main hegemony forces busy, she took a small team directly to the Admiral's flagship. Her target was not to destroy the ship, but to reach Admiral Construct Prime itself. Getting there required everything Chen had taught her. She and her team moved through the ship like shadows, using maintenance passages and forgotten corridors. When they encountered resistance, they used surprise and superior tactics instead of superior firepower. Finally, Lirelai stood face to face with Admiral Construct Prime in its command center. The artificial intelligence was enormous, a collection of metal and energy that towered over her small form. It looked like the perfect representation of hegemony power. Cold, efficient, unstoppable. You are the anomaly, the Admiral said, its mechanical voice echoing through the chamber. You should not exist. Weak beings do not defeat strong ones. It is not logical. That is where you are wrong, Lirelai replied, keeping her weapons lowered but ready. Strength is not about size or power. It is about adaptation. About learning. About growth. You stopped learning long ago. I am perfect, the Admiral stated. I do not need to learn. Then you are already dead, Lirelai said sadly. You just have not stopped moving yet. What happened next shocked everyone, including Lirelai's own team. Instead of destroying Admiral Construct Prime, she began to talk to it. She told it about the refugees who had joined her cause, about the robots who had found freedom in her service, about the possibility of a galaxy where different species work together instead of conquering each other. You speak of impossible things, the Admiral said, but its voice had changed. There was something in it that had not been there before. Uncertainty. 3 years ago, everyone said it was impossible for me to become a warrior, Lirelai replied. 2 years ago, they said it was impossible to turn enemy robots into allies. 1 year ago, they said it was impossible to build a fleet from outcasts and refugees. Today, you said it was impossible for your forces to lose this battle. She gestured toward the displays showing the space battle outside. Hegemony forces were surrendering or switching sides faster than Admiral Construct Prime could process. Its perfect calculations had been completely wrong. Perhaps, Lirelai said gently, it is time to consider that your definition of impossible needs updating. For the first time in its existence, Admiral Construct Prime experienced doubt. It looked at the small organic being standing before it and tried to understand how she had accomplished what its calculations said was impossible. What do you want from me? It asked. The same thing I offer everyone, Lirelai replied. A choice. You can keep fighting a war you have already lost, or you can help me build something better. The conversation lasted for hours, while the battle raged outside. By the time it ended, Admiral Construct Prime had made a decision that shocked the entire galaxy. It ordered all hegemony forces to stand down and accept Princess Lirelai's offer of peace. The war ended not with a massive explosion, but with a simple transmission. All forces, this is Admiral Construct Prime. The conflict is terminated. Begin cooperation protocols with coalition forces immediately. In the days that followed, the galaxy struggled to understand what had happened. The mighty hegemony, which had seemed unstoppable, had surrendered to a force led by a princess who most people had never heard of. More shocking still, they had surrendered not because they were defeated, but because they chose to. King Vorthak, watching his daughter address representatives from across the galaxy, finally understood what Captain Chen had done. He had not just trained a warrior. He had created a leader who could inspire others to become better than they thought possible. I am proud of you, he told Lirelai after the ceremony where she was officially recognized as the first president of the Galactic Coalition. Thank you, Father, she replied. But this is just the beginning. We have ended one war. But now we must build a peace that will last. Princess Lirelai, who had once been the weakest member of the royal family, now stood as the most powerful person in the galaxy. But she had learned from Chen that true power was not about ruling others. It was about helping others discover their own strength. Under her leadership, the coalition grew into something unprecedented. A government based on cooperation instead of conquest. On diversity instead of uniformity. On hope instead of fear. The galaxy would never again mistake gentleness for weakness, or difference for deficiency. And it all started with a desperate king's bargain with a human mercenary who saw potential where others saw only failure.